Hello once again, my fellow Star Warriors, and may the Force be with you. If you haven't checked out my review of part 1 of Ahsoka, which is called Master and Apprentice, sort of reminds me of Metallica's S&M and mergers and acquisitions and MBA terminology. But anyway, if you haven't seen my review of Masters and Apprentice, then make sure you check out the video which is uploaded just before this one, because this is part 2 of Ahsoka's 2-episode launch on Disney Plus Hotstar. Okay, so there is a usual previously on Ahsoka recap that's sort of just there to up the ante, because the first episode ended on a cliffhanger. One of the main characters was stabbed right through the stomach, but in the future medtech is great and the droids are obviously going to do a great job of bringing her back to life. Alright, so suspension of disbelief is paramount if you want to delve into Star Wars. So I've mentioned it in my previous episode review as well, that you have to sort of get into the universe, and I think if you haven't seen Star Wars before, this series might be a good place to start, because let's face it, the production values are excellent. ILM, which is Industrial Light and Magic, Lucasfilm and Disney go all out in making a believable world out of unbelievable things, and you have to suspend your disbelief. You don't have to look too deep into the underlying mechanics or the sort of undercurrents or anything. All you have to know is that in the end, good will win over evil, and that is the overarching story arc of all the great literature things like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. So just to name a few fantasy things. Alright, so I see a lot of Indo-Aryan language influence on Star Wars nomenclature, right? And sometimes that's a point that I've made in my previous video. Two examples are King Ashoka, in which the S and H are flipped to make it Ahsoka, and Azadi. A general is called General Azadi, which means freedom. Okay, but in this episode, the name of which is Toil and Trouble, TNT. Alliteration is something I love. Okay, so in this episode, the planet on which the evil guys are gathering is called Cetos, sorry. And Cetos is basically just sea and tossing waves, and that's the opening shot of that planet, that the sea is crashing into the shore. So I think, they might be pressed for time in order to get the story moving. But, I won't not appreciate a few more creative names. The other planets are like Corellia, which is like coral reef, and so maybe it's a little more sci-fi, but that's some feedback that I'm giving to the conglomerate of all conglomerates, Disney. So let's see if they hear. Alright, so when the name of the episode came up, I was like, here comes the title, not the Beatles song, which has a fantastic history behind it. You should check it out. Here Comes the Sun is by the Beatles, and it was written around the time that the first moon landing was happening, Apollo 11. And right now Chandrayaan 3 has of course made India proud by landing on the south pole of the moon, which is very important for space exploration and settlement on the moon. That's something that I've covered in my sci-fi book, which is on Stack Me. The link is in the description as always, so you can check out my sci-fi book as well. It's based on Earth, Moon and Mars 400 years into the future, unlike Star Wars, which is a separate galaxy altogether, even though humanoids are there. It might be our galaxy, you don't know. Alright, so one of the characters says a thing called the past is the past, move on. And that's something that brings me to 6Rsism, and that's basically being in the moment. And since I'm an existentialist humanist, I tend to focus on what I can do right now rather than dwell on what was the past or fixate too much on the future, because the past is history, the future is a mystery. Okay, Advitya might wake up at any moment, and my lunchtime vlog is not going to happen today because I was recording this for you. So Ahsoka says a couple of words, right? Not exactly, she says all right then, but it reminded me of alrighty then, which was Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. Absolutely awesome acts ever since I heard it. And finally, the episode takes the story forward. I won't give away any spoilers. I have not given any spoilers in the first episode's review as well. I just want to know what you guys think, how you think the Star Wars extended universe is shaping up, and compare it, if you want, to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I am a huge Marveler as well. So Excelsior, and may the Force be with you. I'll draw this to an end right now by saying that when Sabine Wren, the character of the Mandalorian who is the student of a Jedi, Ahsoka, when she looks at her helmet, it kind of reminded me about that Iron Man scene in which he's recording a message for Pepper because he's thinking that he's going to die out in outer space. And it also reminded me of Hamlet, which is very famous, when Hamlet holds up Yorick's skull and gives a monologue about it, which is very famous. Okay, so lastly, I will give a shout out to Ewan McGregor. Even though I didn't like Obi-Wan Kenobi as much as I liked Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Andor, even The Bad Batch. Oh, I forgot to mention The Bad Batch in my previous review. I do appreciate his long way round, long way down, and long way up, which are bike rides he took with Charlie Boorman. Shout out to Charlie as well. I love how he shares excellent motorcycles and great snippets of his life on Twitter. I really appreciate those bike rides, especially the last one, Long Way Up, which I saw on Apple TV Plus, which was all the way through South America and till California, through Mexico as well, of course. So, alright, with that final rumble, I shall rumble on. And like Led Zeppelin said, we must, take the stairway to heaven. Alright, see you. Thanks so much for watching. Smash that sub button for awesome Max fun. And goodbye.